Hello, my name is Gustavo Ríos Martínez, and here's my evidence of greenwashing. In this case, it's a case of Toyota at COP30 last year. Firstly, here's the academic integrity affirmation. I, Gustavo Rafael Ríos Martínez, affirm that this evidence is of my own authorship. I have no appeal to plagiarism in any of its forms, and I establish that in preparing and developing this activity, I have followed the guidelines of the Tecnológico de Monterrey Code of Ethics. Firstly, why should we analyze greenwashing today? There are three main points. The first one being that there's the corporate distraction, and we need to learn to analyze how major polluters use high profile global events to control the climate narrative. Also, there's the false solutions problem. Greenwashing basically consists of high income corporations making something seem better than it really is. And lastly, the ethical consumerism that the clients actually apply within these businesses. The necessity of critical thinking to hold corporations accountable for their entire supply chain, not just the PR campaigns. Now, the problem in the context that I researched was the 2025 COP30 campaign that Toyota held. Well, Toyota was part of. It was held in Brazil. The company which was involved in this was Toyota. The event and the context is that the COP30 Climate Summit, which was held in Belém, Brazil, happened last year, November 2025. And basically, the whole gist of it is that Toyota heavily promoted and showcased biofuel powered prototype vehicles. They were announcing new sorts of vehicles with a new type of engine that can be biofuel powered, which basically means plants. And they promoted it as that it would have less CO2 emissions than a normal car. And basically, they proposed or were selling the idea that Toyota was a climate pioneer at the most important environmental summit of the year, and that they secured political support for their technological choices. The actions that they proposed within this summit was that they were promoting crop-based biofuels and hybrid technologies as the immediate solution to gas-powered cars. And they stated that these would reduce global transport emissions for around 15% of it. The media they used to promote this was high-profile press releases, which were also in attendance in the event, and the prototype showcases that they showed at the said event as well. Now, why is this proposal and these ideas actually greenwashing? After making some deep research, I found that the ecological reality is that in last year's reports, there was a calculated global crop biofuel production, which emitted almost 16% more CO2 than just a normal gas vehicle. Also, there was the corporate selectivism and distraction, which basically was that Toyota is actually responsible for 1.5 of percent of global emissions within the whole world, and they used this campaign to hide the severe lag in real accountability. So they're one of the worst at actually taking care of the planet, but they sold themselves as if they were actually pretty good. And the arguments and the fallacies that I identified within these proposals were that the discourse was a Toyota employee set techno optimist narrative, suggesting that incremental innovation in existing combustion engine technology can solve the climate crisis, which was just basically that they stated that by doing a biodegradable fuel, it would be actually be better, when in reality it was researched and noticed that it was not. And the detected fallacies was something that I found really interesting, the red herring, which was a distraction at the end of the day. Toyota used flashy biofuel prototypes at COP30 as a distraction, diverting public and regulatory attention from their continued mass production of internal combustion engine vehicles. I mean, they just proposed new ideas while they were really only still using last ideas. And the detective fallacy was just cherry picking. They just showed what they wanted to show the press without actually showing everything that they are actually doing or it's actually happening. The SDGs that were in this instance affected were the 13, which is the climate action one, since Toyota are actually hurting more the environment whilst they're trying to show people that they are not. So it just really didn't make sense. And also, it negatively impacts SDG 15, which is life on land. When they want to use crop based biofuels promoted by this campaign, this directly drives agricultural expansion, which is the leading cause of tropical deforestation in regions like the Amazon, which is pretty funny that that's also my project with my team. So there are now two leading causes for Amazon, I mean, for Brazil's deforestation. The social reaction and the backlash through these proposal that they did about the biofuels. Well, people were smart and they saw behind everything. There was a call out that international NGOs led by the Greenpeace East Asia launched the Toyota at a Crossroads campaign during COP30. They basically saw the same thing I did, that they were mostly lies, and they decided to call them out in public. I mean, they held protests, they held media backlashes, they were actually activists. In this case, it wasn't slacktivism, but rather actual activism. They were protesting and by data-driven pushback by the scientific community and climate activist community. So there was actual activism against these proposals. Um, I mean, after learning all of this and researching, I could say that the campaign improvement proposal would be pretty easy. Actually, just having some ethical restructuring, just showing that you actually care about the well-being of our ecosystem. And the new campaign focus would be not to use biodegradable fuels, since we know they don't really work. I mean, they work, but not they don't help. And just to focus on, instead of making biodegradable fuel vehicles, just focus on the electricity, which they actually are trying to improve, but still we're far from there. And the actors involved in this new proposal would be the government and regulators, which need to establish a sort of like line where you can actually call something sustainable fuel, not just anything that, well, a company might say is sustainable when it's not. And Toyota must align its massive R&D budget with genuine zero emission technology, not just placing an engine that they think is better, but it actually isn't. So they should spend all that money of R&D into something that actually matters. And the conclusion is that the danger of greenwashing, Toyota at CPO3 case proves that modern greenwashing is sophisticated. It's hard to actually understand if you don't do your research. I mean, if I just saw it, I would say, oh, cool, they're making a better engine. But after doing some research, we can see that that's not the case at all. And a final thought would just be that as future professionals, we need to take into consideration that even the biggest, largest companies in the world, most of them might just be lying. So we need to do our own research before deciding in any choice of that matter. Now, for the metacognition, the three things that I didn't know and now I'm aware of is that I didn't know that biofuels were actually worse than just normal fossil fuels, due to the deforestation, of course. I wasn't aware of the red herring fallacy and how companies use it to distract from the main source of pollution. I learned that Toyota, despite its eco-friendly image in the past, is lagging behind the transition to fully electric vehicles. Two things I would like to find more about are the how the regulations work and what are the true ethical alternatives for heavy transport. And one thing that I believe will change how I see things from now on is that I will always look deeper into something that they campaign for, that looks too good to be true, because most of the times that's just the case. So you need to investigate more on your own. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you.